pass across to the right. Just trying to find a spot where we can best wait and see. This individual's just sneaking off, and aren't they beautiful antelope, the kudu? As I said, this was a female. You can tell this because she lacks horns, and the majority of antelope in this part of South Africa, the males will have horns and the females won't. But buffalo and wildebeest are exceptions to that rule amongst the herbivores. And now look closely, you'll notice how the vertical white stripes on her body help chop her body up into little puzzle pieces, making it difficult for predators to detect them when they are in thick vegetation. And being browsers, we might see her nibbling on leaves. They do spend a lot of time in this thick vegetation, and a lot of the vertical branches of trees along with those vertical white stripes make for wonderful camouflage. You would have also maybe noticed that the kudu have got massive ears. Again, this is another adaptation for the thick environments they typically find themselves, because good hearing in a thick area where you cannot see far will be very useful when they are trying to detect predators sneaking up on them. Whereas an animal that eats grass out in open plains has less of a need for great hearing. Now, where is the rest of her family? I can see one slowly making its way into a clearing on our left, so I think it may be our best option to just be a little bit patient and wait for... There's at least one. It's a youngster, so it's going to be really cute to see. And whether she has split up from, or it has split up from its mother or not, it's hard to say because it is so thick, but it does seem small, so I'd be surprised if it's not quite close to its mother, or at least another kudu. And they're going to pop out just on the left of this large tree that Andrew's zooming in onto. There we go. Andrew was ahead of me there in his forecast of the animal's movements, so well done to him. And now you'll notice these massive ears that they can pivot in all angles to not only be able to listen forwards but backwards if need be. Beautiful, and an even smaller one is now following it from behind, and it's got very, very white legs. This is abnormally white, and this is a very strange thing that we're seeing here, unless I'm imagining things, but its left leg looks considerably whiter than they usually do. Even if you compare it to the other one that it was just walking alongside. That was quite interesting, the genetic variance, because usually they all look very similar. We're just going to creep up ahead now and see if we Good afternoon, Cecilia, and thanks for sending your question through. There's not much of a gap, but Andrew's going to try his best to show you a few more views of these kudu. Well, Cecilia would like to know if any animals in the Sabi Sands pair for life, and that's a good question. The majority of animals will not pair for life that we see out here, but there are exceptions to the rule. Steenbok, a very small antelope, are monogamous, so they will pair for life, and a lot of the birds are monogamous, especially the birds of prey. But in terms of mammals, I can't seem to think of any others than the steenbok. There's no doubtedly some that I'm forgetting, but typically males will have to vie for dominance over females on a continual basis, and that makes great sense because it ensures that only the strongest, fittest, healthiest genes are passed on And now we've got a good example of this little kudu browsing. Thanks very much for that question though, Cecilia, and if I have forgotten any, I have no doubt that some of our well-informed viewers will alert us to that, and I'll be sure to relay that information to you. Well, hello Kevin, all the way over in Wisconsin, and I hope you're enjoying your afternoon safari with us. Kevin would like to know if any of the antelope shed their horns like deer do in America, and the answer to that is no, Kevin, and it's one of the defining differences between antelope and deer. All antelope horns will grow throughout their life, and they've got a keratin sheath with a very hard white bony inner, no different to a leg bone or any bone in our body. Antlers, on the other hand, grow every season. They increase in size every season, but they are shed, and it's a very fast growing keratin, I believe, that make up antlers, and they don't have any bone compound that I'm not certain about this, but I don't think there's a bony compound, and they are, like Kevin said, shed seasonally. So interesting how two similar animals have such different ways. And I'm not sure of the reason behind that. If you think about it, I mean, even the antelope here will only need their horns at certain times of the year when they are vying for mating rights. Most of the herbivores will mate in specific seasons. Therefore, having horns all year round doesn't really serve a big purpose. It actually just drains energy. So the deer, you would almost think, have evolved a more efficient way of only growing the horns in time for rutting season when they are needed, and then shedding them thereafter. So interesting just to think about. Well, that's perfect timing. Brent's come across another brown furry animal. It's slightly different in size to the kudu, but still very exciting to watch. So head over to him and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, guys. Not the large carnivore we're looking for, but it is definitely a carnivore, a little predator, one of my favorites, the dwarf mongoose. And they're not quite on what some of you have dubbed Mount Mongoose, which we found a few days ago. This is a very small little termite mound in the middle of an open area, and like they do in the morning, as it gets later in the afternoon, they're going to be basking and in the sun, getting a bit of warmth before the cool night, and they'll head down into those holes. Very, very cute. See, the light is fantastic, and you can see that in this open area, and the blue of the sky is really, really incredible today. So even though they are basking, they are constantly alert, and obviously, I would say the biggest threat to dwarf mongoose is death from above. All the different predatory birds are a constant threat to dwarf mongoose, and quite a few of the first leopard cub kills I've witnessed personally, not to say it was that leopard cub's first kill, have been dwarf mongoose. And those of you who've been watching for a while know dwarf mongoose and I, we've had a little luck when it comes to leopards. We've often been sitting with dwarf mongoose and a leopard has wandered into us to come have a look what we were looking at, or just to come have a look at what the noise was. But they are... Oh, you see how his head moves so quickly, and that was just a starling flying. He just picked up the movement, checked very quickly. Very still, not much bird noise. Here a Cape turtle dove. Some southern black tit in the distance. What else can we have? Oh, look at the little wax balls, James. To the left, down on the ground in the grass. Quite difficult to show these little guys. Quite often they fly away and flit away, but here they are feeding on the grass, in the grass seeds. And there's blue wax balls. Let me see if there's any other species. I could only see blue wax balls when I first looked. Quite often found feeding with firefinches, but I don't see any firefinches at the moment, only the wax balls. So, a couple of years ago, they decided to change the names of the birds. There we go. Starlings flying past. There we go, Birchall starling by the looks of things. Yeah. So there you go, those wax bills. And I was saying earlier that a few years ago they decided to change the names, a lot of people thought, and there's another fourth one that's come, a little bit of aloe grooming going on. Oh, defleeing, removing possibly fleas or ticks that they might have picked up while they're out foraging. Those wax balls, so the reason that a lot of the name changes was that the same bird was called by a different name in East Africa as it was to here, and it caused a bit of confusion. So they decided to revert to the first name that bird was ever called by, and generally the ornithological societies of Southern Africa and East Africa agreed on almost everything. The name changes, except some of the waxball species. So even though the waxball was the first and original name for them, the East Africans refused to let go of their very strange name for a little bird, which is a cordon bleu. So we still call them waxbills, and in East Africa they still call them cordon bleus, which is a very strange a name for a little bird. But that was the only one the East African and Southern African ornithological societies could not come to terms with. For example, just to give you an idea, we've always known as a bateleur, but in Kenya and Tanzania it's referred to as a short-tailed eagle. I'm quite glad they stuck with bateleur myself, far more pleasant to name. Hi, Lynn from Michigan. Lynn would like to know, do mongoose use different termite mounds every day? Oh, James has found a crown lapwing and a red-billed hornbill out on the grasses, feeding in the late afternoon night. Lynn, they can sometimes, but they often do not. They'll have multiple sort of termite mounds that they utilize within their territory. They will obviously have favorites that they tend to prefer, but they don't necessarily use the same termite mound every day. If they do stay foraging in the same area for a few days, they might, but quite often they will move between different termite mounds. Isn't that lovely golden light on those mongoose at the moment? They look like they've heard or seen something. There's a little bit of focus there. I just think they saw that starling, the virtual starling, fly away. Hi, Natasha from Texas. Natasha would like to know the size of a dwarf mongoose. They are tiny, as I said, the smallest member of the order Carnivora in Africa. I would say, without their tail, they're the size of my hand. Obviously, with the tail makes them a bit longer, but about 9-10 centimeters in length without the tail. Deflating his own tail there for a second. Lots of preening and grooming going on. I think we're going to leave these guys to settle in for the evening and see what else we can find. I'm going to make my way to the area where the Shadow and Sindile's tracks were last seen. There's another vehicle on their way here, so I'm going to have a quick afternoon meeting and see if there's any new information for us. Alright guys, I'm just going to talk to Darby quickly. Hello, I keep finding you everywhere. Have there been any updates? We still don't have comms with the side.
Just in below in the east, there, Treehouse Bend.
Okay.
So
Ish.
it might go north.
Okay, that's good news.
Not too far.
How far about is it from?
It's probably about a click south of like Dam.
Perfect, cool. Thanks, I'll probably have a look in the morning. Cheers, thanks, Bob. Have a good drive. So there's a little bit of interesting information. Mvula is about 1 kilometer south of Twin Dams, so definitely worth having a look in that area in the morning. Goodbye, little monkeys. Don't get eaten. So, who's feeling leopard lucky?
We spent about 15 minutes there, and sometimes stopping and listening is your best bet because the roads can't take you everywhere. Some of the bush is very thick, so to drive around and check a place visually would be close to impossible, but by stopping and listening you can often get signs from other animals, or even the lions could have started roaring. So sadly no further updates there. I hope you enjoyed your sighting with the dwarf mongoose. They're such awesome little animals. And regarding a question I had early on, whether there's any monogamous, or how many of the animals are monogamous out here, we've got some feedback from some of the other viewers, and one is that Elise from Washington thought Dick and Jackal will mate for life. Jackal could potentially, I think they do. Both side-striped and black-backed do, so thanks for reminding me about that, as well as klipspringer. The reason why I didn't mention klipspringer is because you don't actually get them here, but they do occur nearby in other areas of the Sabi Sands. There's a few properties with rocky outcrops, and klipspringer will live on these rocky outcrops and pair for life. And Gerry also said klipspringer, so thanks very much for your feedback and help. And now we can, like I said, share information. Now another one is from Ginny, and Ginny said that dwarf mongoose mate for life. Now that could be the case, it could very well be the case. A part of me is telling me to query that further though, as I know there is an alpha male and female that will be dominance within a family of mongoose, but whether they pair for life, I'm not too sure. So thanks though, and that's what it's about. And that's the great thing about these interactive live safaris, is that we can solve problems and clear up any doubts immediately with your help. And I certainly have learned so much from having thousands of viewers on board the vehicle with me every drive, as opposed to just the regular 4 or 6 which we would have if we were guiding regular guests. And the more the merrier is certainly applicable in the safari's case. Some great feedback to hear that Mvula isn't far from us, but he is. Oh, well done, Andrew. Sorry.
It's okay.
Andrew was caught me off guard there. I didn't expect him to go for that, but as I looked at the monitor, he was doing a good job. So that was a red-billed hornbill and a Burchell starling that flew off. I think it was mainly the red-billed hornbill that Andrew followed as it flew off. And as you can see, it's got a little red bill. It's a slightly smaller hornbill than the yellow-billed hornbill, which is another common hornbill that we have out here. And it's sitting in a marula tree. This is a good opportunity to help teach you, or any of the botanists out there, how to identify different trees. The marulas have got abnormally thick terminal ends to their branches. It almost looks like little fingers. They don't taper off to very thin twigs like regular branches. The only few thin twigs you'll see would have been the stems for leaves to grow off, and most of those leaves have fallen off, and the stems too will fall off, and just leave these finger-like ends to the branches. Like I said, that's probably about as thick as your finger, and other branches on most trees, as you will all know, will taper off to a very thin edge. Well, goodbye Hornbill, and hello Kathy from Cleveland, Ohio. Welcome on board with us. Kathy would like to know why we don't see another kind of hornbill out here very much, and that hornbill is called the southern ground hornbill. It is the cover model of my book over here, and they are far larger than the red-billed hornbill we've just looked at. Almost turkey-like, you could say, and spend a lot of time on the ground. They can fly, but they feed on the ground and will walk around huge distances looking for food. They're quite aggressive and can feed on animals like snakes, even little dwarf mongoose like you've just been looking at with Brent, frogs, baby birds, insects, you name it. They're quite capable predators. The reason why we don't see very many of them here is because they are an endangered species. There's only about 250 birds in the whole of the Kruger National Park. Now we make up 60,000 hectares of 3 million. And in 3 million, there's only 250, plus or minus, and that figure is probably from a few years ago. But there's not many of them around. A large reason for that is because their nesting sites, which are cavities in dead trees, have been burnt, and you'd be obviously asking yourself, well, why have they been burnt? I mean, who would have burnt down all of the nests for these birds, or just the dead trees, really? And at one stage, conservationists thought it was helpful to burn the vegetation, clearing dead bush to make space for new, fresh growth. And there are certainly benefits to doing it, but like most things in life, in moderation. Now, people burnt areas to create fresh green growth and open areas which are easy to see in, which is great for game viewing, but in the long run, what they slowly learned is that they've been diminishing the amount of nest sites available for these ground hornbills. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is that they do take a long time to raise their chicks, and I think only give or have young once every 2 years, or it's a long process between raising chicks and having their next. Little Franklin making a racket over there. And at this stage of the evening, you can often get confused and think an animal may be alarm calling. They're simply getting their last little bit of excitement out the system before they bed down, I guess. There's a little bit of an evening rush. I'm just going to move forward ever so slightly. Well, actually, I'm going to continue moving because the subject that I was hoping to show you is orbiting at a rate that took it behind a cloud before I could show it to you, but it's not going anywhere, and we'll be able to find it and show it to you later. It's very fun. I'll show you behind a cloud.
And sort of ice, a layer of ice almost, if I remember my cloud. And it is a magnificent sight. It's hard to imagine that people used to drive ox wagons through those mountains, and it would take from Johannesburg to here, which now in a comfortable vehicle will take you about 5.5 hours, used to take them up to a month and a half to travel from Johannesburg to the Lowvelds. Hi, Kathy from Florida. Oh, we are being attacked by a Burchell starling charging towards us. We've got a question from Kathy. Kathy said she went to a zoo recently and she saw a huge African hornbill, and she was wondering, it looks a lot bigger than the ones we see on safari. Kathy, it could be a couple of different species that are very big. We only get one of those really big species here, and James is busy showing you the moon, nearly full moon, but not quite yet. A couple of days, I'd say, probably next 2 days. But we'll have a look at the different possibilities of a hornbill species that it could be, if it's a very large hornbill. Kathy, if you could send maybe, actually we can have a look and you can tell us which one it might possibly be. There is a very large, the largest species which James and I saw on the Sunset Safari last night, which is the southern ground hornbill, and they are massive, about 100 centimeters in height, and it could even be in a zoo. It could be the northern ground hornbill, which is also was known previously as the Abyssinian ground hornbill. The other really big hornbill species that occur in Africa are all in the rainforest, and they're a little bit smaller than the ground hornbills, but just as massive. They get to about 90 centimeters, and those are the casqued hornbills. And you get a black cast and a yellow cast wattled hornbill. That's the black cast I've actually seen before in Gabon, and that occurs mainly in the Central African forests, where there's the yellow cast. This one occurs further into the west, from Cameroon around through Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, that area. Whereas this one extends down into Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, and the Congo Brazzaville, and Central African Republic. So, Kathy, you let us know. It's either one of the casqued hornbills, and they've got that very distinct, huge casque on top of their beak, or it could be one of the two ground hornbill species as well. So, let us know which one it was that you saw, and then we can maybe go into a bit more detail. Hi, Jacques and Jane Fillion from Centurion. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. They would like to know whether we get the trumpeter hornbill. For those of you who are not sure what a trumpeter hornbill looks like, it is number 2, the trumpeter hornbill. I have heard them flying over. They wouldn't really be resident in this area. They prefer forests and riverine areas. I have heard them flying over. I know in the south of the Sabi Sands, around the Sand River and the Sabi River, they are resident in the riverine forests there, but not in our area. We don't have the right type of riverine forest. And towards those mountains we were looking at, the Drakensberg, on the foothills, and in certain areas there's a misbelt forest, and they are very common in those areas. So that's that trumpeter hornbill. Its call sounds very much like a baby crying, sort of a wah, wah, wah. And that's how I knew they were here. I heard them flying over going wah, wah. But that is the trumpeter hornbill. So it is possible that we might see them here flying over or hear them, but it is unlikely that they would spend any time in this actual part of the Sabi Sands. So, no alarm calls. There's literally almost not a sound, which doesn't mean there aren't any animals there. They are just choosing not to let us know where they are at the moment. So we're going to start moving on and see what else we can find. Marissa on Twitter is asking what is James's favourite bird, so I'm definitely not going to answer that on his behalf. James, what is your favourite bird? Remember to chat to the top mic.
My favourite bird out here at the moment is the white-browed scrub robin.
And I will definitely, Marissa, there we go. If we hear one calling, we will stop. They do often call at this time of the day, so we will keep our ears open for a white-browed scrub robin. Isn't that a quintessential African vista? Full moon rising, lovely pastel colours in the sky, and a dead knobthorn. So shall we see if we can fly? Take off down the airstrip. Ah, maybe not today. I'm going to head back towards where those last tracks were. Maybe, just maybe, Shadow decides to grace us with her presence. Temperature's definitely dropping quite quickly now. Not quite as tough as James's nearly impossible tree quiz, but I think this might be quite a difficult one. So we can have a look at it. This one in front of us here. Very nice tree. Very pretty tree during the summer months. Wonderful sort of lilac flowers. I have asked you this before, but I gave you a very big clue. And I think I'll give you the clue again. So what tree is this? It is often found in the company of desperate housewives. So what tree is this? You can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. What tree is this? And the clue is it's often found in the company of desperate housewives. Welcome on the Sunset Safari. Harry would like to know whether I've seen secretary birds in this area. I actually have. I saw one a couple of nights ago, roosting in a tree not too far from the west here, and we have seen them on occasion on the airstrip. That is the only place I've seen secretary birds in this part of the Sabi Sands, but I have seen them quite frequently further south. Maybe we should get James to sing to the leopards. Maybe that'll make them come out. Yeah, a little bit forward for you there. Got a male and Nyala off to our left. Bit dark, but we'll try have a look at him. And I did see some females to the left as well, but they are in a bit of a thicket. Nice big adult male Inyala. Very beautiful animal. This is one of the guys we're hoping was going to spot a leopard for us, and alarm call. Disappears off into the thickets. So if you guys are new and you might have just joined us, welcome. You are on a live African safari with myself and James. My name is Brent. And you are seeing what we are seeing live from wherever you might be in the world. and you are joining us. You're sitting on the back of our game drive vehicle, coming on a safari with us. We have had a little bit of a tough day. We've been working quite hard to try and find some rosettes, so some leopards, and we have come up empty-handed. The leopards at the moment seem to be on a bit of a domination of the guides, but fortunately, hopefully, we can turn those tables quite soon. So at the moment we've been checking in this area around here for a female leopard called Shadow, who's got a young male leopard called Sindile. Last tracks we had were just to the west of us here. I haven't found any tracks coming out. There is a possibility they could still be in this thick block. We've been standing by and listening. While we're doing that, we've had some spectacular scenery of the Drakensberg Mountains and the sunset, and a dead knobthorn in the moon, but no leopards yet, unfortunately. But we will keep trying, don't worry. To Sandy, Jean and Winland, who got the name of that tree correct. It is a tree wisteria. Now, I don't know whether you cheated and just used the clue, or you actually looked at the leaves and the bark like you were supposed to. But neither, it doesn't matter, you got it correct. A tree wisteria. So, we have exhausted our options on Arethusa, so we're going to start moving back towards Djuma, and while we are heading down the main cut line back towards Djuma, we're going to cross across to Scotty and Andrew and see what they've been up to, and we'll catch up with you a little later in the drive.
Welcome back, everyone, and I'm sure you've been having fun with Brent. We found ourselves in a beautiful spot here, and I've got an old knobthorn tree which has created a perfect frame for the beautiful moon that we are experiencing tonight. And well done, Andrew, for getting you there so smoothly. It's a very long way away, the moon. It's about 280,000 miles away. And to put that into perspective, if you were to hop into your car now and head off towards the moon at, well, let's call it a plane rather, or your space shuttle, but if you were to travel at 70 miles an hour, kind of regular highway speed, it would take 4 months and 10 days to get there. So that gives you an idea of how far away it is. Something else quite interesting about the moon is that it's actually pitch black in color, and it's the reflection from light from the sun that glistens off this shiny black material, giving off a white color. And all the darker patches you can see are craters and old seas. And that's why you do get the different colors. Obviously the more depressed areas do not glisten and receive as much sunlight or at the right angle to reflect back as brightly as the rest of the moon, the higher lying parts. And the evening chorus this evening is really alive. There's been a lot of bird chatter, and it's interesting how it can vary from day to day. Some evenings are more busy than others, and the same goes for the mornings. So we are always kept guessing out here as to what's going to happen. We've been sitting and waiting now since you've been gone in an area close to where we last had these lion tracks. Again, listening can sometimes be the best weapon, even though your natural urge is to keep moving forward to look for something. If there's only so many roads, you can only check them every so often. And while you are driving around, you'd miss a far more useful clue like audio of alarm calls or the animal itself calling that you may be looking for. But you have to kind of try and calm yourself down not to keep going forward and searching. And let's be honest, even if the lion are far from here, or even if they are nearby, that's not to say a herd of elephant won't pop out from another direction, or a leopard. So that's what we've been up to. Haven't heard any alarm calls though, but it's been wonderful listening to all the birds calling. Some francolin were just calling out there. Another francolin has started up its engine now. It really is so peaceful out here, and a wonderful temperature. A very slight nip in the air. But I really love this time of year, and I can't help but stopping and listening deeper into the vegetation. It really is interesting, especially when you're sitting with other guides or anybody with good hearing, how you can really focus and hone your hearing into specific areas. And whenever I get a kind of glimmer of a hint of something interesting happening, I have to freeze to try and hone my hearing any better. But enough of that for this evening. I cannot wait here any longer. So let's go for a drive and see what we can find. Okay, well, Brent has got reports of a leopard somewhere, and I think he's making his way into that area. Now, there's no guarantees out here, but if you were planning on going somewhere, don't, because there's a strong chance a leopard could pop up in your screen at any moment. So that is something to look forward to, and it's just a brief update I've got, but definitely worth sharing with you. You always run the risk of disappointments, and it's something that guides often debate or battle to decide whether to inform guests that you're actually going to a sighting, because you do run a risk of the animals moving off and disappearing into thick vegetation before you get there, and then you have to try and explain yourself out of that one. So that's a little bit of the behind the scenes debate that guides will have with themselves and with other guides as to what they think the best is. Obviously the element of surprise is also great, so that is something that is factored into the equation. And it's often why in areas like this the guides will communicate in a local language. Here it is Shangaan or Tsonga, and that way the guests won't know what animals they're speaking about, and then it leaves it up to the guide's discretion whether to let them know or not about what's going on. Now, it often doesn't take a lot of guests long to learn or Google the local names once they found out that their guides are trying to hide this information from them, so you can get caught up. spotlight out. And look at the moon there. We're going to be able to do a Mvula moon combo here. And let's see how this works out. The tree you see silhouetted is a beautiful Mvula tree. You can tell quite easily because at this time of the year they won't have leaves, but also the horizontal branches. Beautiful. Not quite full yet, I don't think. Maybe one more day or 2 more days. And again, while we stop, it's just wonderful to listen and soak in all the noises around us. It's mainly Franklin that we can hear calling. And it's a nocturnal bird called a nightjar, and they often let off beautiful calls in the evenings. It's very difficult to distinguish the different nightjars out here. They all look very similar unless you open up their wings and tail feathers. You can tell a lot from the coloration of the underside of their wings or their calls. So I'm not sure which one this is. It could be a fiery necked nightjar. That's my favorite, and it lets off a really wonderful call. But from the nightjar we need to find another night animal, and over to Brent. Enjoy, it's going to be good.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm just going to go to Leftwood and see if I can pick him up there for a nice view.
Welcome back, guys. So we got that report from the other guide when we were on Arathusa that Mvula was to the south of us, and he might come north, and lucky enough he actually has come north. So we rushed as fast as we could to get here, and it looks like our leopard luck has changed a little, and we've now with Mvula, he's going through some thickets, and he has been moving around and calling quite regularly over the last few nights. So it's going to be interesting to see what he is up to tonight. Sorry guys, the other vehicles are just trying to get hold of me.
Yeah, I think Brent's got him there.
So I just need to tell the other game drive vehicles exactly where we are. So just give me a second and I'll be back with you. Hey Fim, I do have him. He is mobile, still mobile north. In my lights at the moment. There's a bush baby right in front of him. He's seen it and the bush baby's seen him. We might hear some alarm calls from that bush baby shortly. Sorry guys, the reason I killed the lights like that quickly, he looks like he's stalking something. So that's why we've killed the lights. We don't like to shine the light when he is stalking. We don't want to interfere. I think it's possibly the bush baby. There is enough ambient light that I can just see him. So I am watching him, and I'm going to watch his body language to see if he changes from stalk mode back to sort of marching mode. So you can see now, just make out those rosettes on screen. He's sitting down. I think it was the bush baby, and the movement cool down. But I think it was the bush baby and the movement of the bush baby that attracted him. But he's just stopped and listening. I'm just gonna flash above his head, so I'm not shining on him, so not giving away his presence, just to try have a better look at his body language. But it does look like he's swapped out of that mode. So there he is.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm pretty sure it was that bush baby that was just up ahead in that tree right ahead of him, and the bush baby jumping from tree to tree, that movement is what would have attracted his attention. So it looks like we've, after a very quiet afternoon, a little bit of leopard luck now. He is moving through quite a thick block, and it is at night. We will try our best to stay with him, but unfortunately in these blocks sometimes it can be quite difficult. There are a myriad of little drainage lines a little bit further to the northwest in the direction he's heading, but we will try to stay with him as long as possible. I'm just going to move around so we can have a look at him a bit better. Look at that, a leopard in that sunset. Isn't that spectacular? That skyline with a big male leopard, the dominant male leopard in this area, moving through the bush. And you can see how he takes almost zero notice of the vehicles. As I said, it could be quite difficult to follow him. You can see he's going into quite a thick area. As I said, I will try my best. Okay, he's gone into that stalking mode again. I'm just going to flash quickly, see in front if I can see anything. As I said, we really don't want to disturb. I'm not sure what he's up to. He is stalking, but I don't know if he's stalking those bush babies. He's there. He is stalking. I can't see whether he's stalking or not. I'm just going to sit quietly for a second. Hi, Janice from Boston. Janet would like to know, is Mvula in Tingana's territory? Because I was in Arathusa earlier today looking, early on the Sunset Safari, looking for Tingana. I've now lost sight of him.
I can hear him moving.
He is not. We're back on Djuma and very much deep in the core of Mvula's territory. I'm just going to move slightly. I've lost visual of him. It's exuvialis. I can hear a bush baby alarm calling over here somewhere. I'm just going to get through to this little clearing up ahead, and then I'm going to stop and switch off. See the bush baby that's alarm calling. They have got quite good eyesight.
Gion's still on the road there.
So there's the bush baby. So the bush baby's about to just catch its eye every now and then. So we're not only listening for like alarm calls now, because it's such a quiet evening. Just give me a second to turn R2D2 off. We're even listening to see if we can hear him moving through the grass. I can't hear anything apart from that bush baby. I'm just going to sneak forward a little bit. Guys, we're going to be bashing and crashing a little bit trying to find this guy. So we're going to cross over to Scott and we're going to try our best to try find him again. As I said, this is a very difficult block, but we will try. So in the meantime, we're going to cross over to Scott and we're going to catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome everyone, and how wonderful is it that Mvula came all the way onto Djuma and Brent was in the right place at the right time. Now, it can always be a little bit annoying when you've had a leopard in your sights and then you switch off all the lights to watch it hunt and then it disappears, but it's a necessity and it's definitely the right thing that Brent and the other guides in that sighting did.
Diana coming?
Now, we are on Hyena Road now, the bumpiest road on Djuma, and we've been taking it slowly because it is so bumpy. Stopping along the way, haven't heard much, and are going to continue with you now. It's also a good opportunity to allow Brent to really concentrate on trying to relocate Mvula, and I hope he does. He's such a beautiful leopard, and what are the chances that we saw the dominant male from Arethusa to our west in Ghana this morning, and Mvula, the dominant male, here on Djuma to the east of that. And there's been a lot of talk and debate about Tingana pushing Mvula further away out of his property. As I know Brent did mention earlier, the Anderson male from further west of Tingana is pushing Tingana towards us, and now Tingana is feeling pressure to push off Mvula. Now, we haven't seen any interactions, but it will happen at some stage, and I just hope we're there to see it. It is such a magical evening out here, and I'm so glad to have all of you with us. Now we're going to give Brent just a couple more minutes to see if he can find this leopard and really focus on that, and then we're going to cut back to him and you'll be involved in the final search if he hasn't found it by then. Now you may wonder why I wasn't shining my spotlights earlier, because the bush was so thick it literally would make no sense to shine the spotlights either side. It was almost impenetrable. But now it's opened up a little bit, and the spotlight will be very useful in picking up the reflection of animals' eyes. We've just got a great question through from Josh, and good evening and welcome on board with us. Josh would like to know if male leopards' territories will overlap in areas where prey is more abundant, and that is possibly going to be a factor that contributes to how male leopards vie for territory and sizes of their territory, but they more importantly will also be thinking strongly about females. So it's not just about feeding themselves, it's their urge to procreate that will want them to have a big territory encompassing as many females as possible. But yes, food will certainly have an impact on the situation, and regardless of food or females, I think a lot of the time the territories do overlap. It's not like our properties that have defined fences or lines that belong to you. With the predators and a lot of the animals, the territories will overlap to a degree, and you'll also have lots of young animals like a young leopard or a young lion that's not ready to vie for dominance, that may be flying below the radar in and amongst a dominant leopard, just trying to avoid him at all costs. Good question though, Josh, and from myself, Scott, and Andrew and Chris, thanks very much for joining us, and thanks for your great camera work, Andrew. Thanks to Nikki, who's been in the director's chair and final control. And again, what a day it's been. A big male leopard this morning, Tingana, and now a brief glimpse of Mvula, and hopefully in the next few minutes Brent will find him. But again, a big thank you for following, and I can't wait for the morning safari. Don't forget, Chris will be out, and I'm not sure if it's Brent or James. It'll be James out with Chris, so we look forward to taking you on safari, and we'll see you then. Over to Brent.
Here's a great level of termite mound in Mvula. I'm trying to do this because it's open.
You're live, come up.
Hi guys, welcome back. We are still bashing and crashing. Sorry, I lost my ears. It got pulled out by one of these pesky bushes that are making it so difficult to find this male leopard. I mean, it's hard enough following them during the day when we can see everything, and at night, I mean, it just took a matter of seconds and he disappeared, and that bush baby was alarming. But we're going to try and listen again. Maybe something will give us a clue, but I'm afraid, I think we were very lucky to catch him just before he disappeared into these thickets. But it's been a fantastic sunset safari with a lovely little splash of leopard at the end. We've had quite a long drive. We covered a lot of ground searching for leopard today, and I know Scotty was doing the same out this side, so we definitely did try our hardest, and we were very lucky to catch Mvula there at the end. He has moved north onto Djuma, which is great news, which definitely means we can have a look for him in the morning on the the sunrise safari. His general, when he does head north, I think, guys, zoomies, keep a very close lookout on the Vuyatela, the Djuma dam cam. From here, he does quite often like to walk that way towards the dam. So I would definitely keep a lookout, you guys who watching that cam. And we do really appreciate you guys who watch that cam and let us know what's going on there. But from James and myself, we've thoroughly enjoyed having you on the back of our vehicle, and we hope you're going to join us again for the sunrise safari. I know it is an obscene time for those in the northern North Americas and Canada and the States, but for the rest of you, please join us when for the sunrise safari. It's been wonderful having you, and have a wonderful day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you on the sunrise safari. Good night.
Bye.